All right. Should be good to go in just a second. All right. I can see us. We are doing it. It's happening. Okay. Perfect. All right. So we'll go ahead and jump in and just get things moving. So we're very excited today here at the Field Teen Center. We've got a few guests with us, and I'm going to introduce them as soon as I turn off the volume that's echoing back to me because I have the I have the YouTube up. Okay, perfect. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about this new ever-evolving world that we're in, where things are changing and changing day to day. So the information that we're giving out today could even be different tomorrow, the next day, who knows? But we have some great experts with us, and I'm going to go ahead and just introduce Aisha, who many folks who come to the Teen Center might be familiar with because we work with her a lot for our college prep program, our SAT prep program. Aisha is like just our superstar expert that we always turn to on all manner of things college prep. And she's got some great accolades. One of the first Millennium Gates scholarships.
Very first year.
Amazing. Also board member for the Philadelphia College Prep Roundtable. And of course, our provider of a lot of our SAT prep programs at the Field Teen Center. So Aisha, I'm going to let you take it away to introduce our other guests as well.
Absolutely. So as Chris was saying, today we have some special guests. First guest I would like to introduce is Ms. Nicole Renee. She is the founder and CEO of NRE College and Career Network for Parents and Students. She has over 20 years of experience counseling secondary students and parents in Philadelphia County, Lehigh County, Montgomery County, and other areas in Pennsylvania. She also is serving as a college and career counselor at a Pennsylvania Public High School. She's a great speaker, workshop facilitator. She has so many accolades, including having her own book. So we'll make sure we drop some nuggets about that if you're interested in college planning. And we're happy to have her today. So thank you so much for being with us, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, we have Joseph Corso, and he is a professional at CCP, Community College of Philadelphia. He's been in higher education for the past 18 years, supporting students in their pursuit of college and career goals. He also has a master's in higher education administration. And his efforts are on large urban institutions and helping students get into college. So we are excited to have Joe with us today as well. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Nicole. So I'm going to dive right in. I know that we are currently in a state where things are ever changing, like Chris talked about. We just want to make sure we are engaging and informing our youth about, number one, how can they prepare to get into college? So Nicole, that's where you come into play, kind of helping students prepare to get into college. So what to expect around that and COVID-19 and virtual learning, right? And then secondly, Joe, we're going to bring you into the conversation to talk about what happens when they actually get to the other side. What is currently happening at Community College of Philadelphia around policies with COVID-19 and virtual learning. Sure. All right, so Nicole, when should students begin thinking about getting into college and applying to college?
Believe it or not, people should start really taking it seriously in middle school. Of course, we have, everybody that waits until 11th and 12th grade because that's when the mechanics take place as far as filling out applications and transcripts. But it really should start in middle school because colleges will be looking at transcripts from grades 9 through 12, or really 9 through 11 to determine, if they're going to get into the school. And if you really want to strategize to maximize the amount of scholarships that you want to get, to showcase, some rigor in your transcript, if you start out in middle school trying to figure out, if you already know you want to go into engineering, then that means that you need to try to go into high school taking algebra 2, geometry, pre-calculus. So when your senior year comes around, you can have calculus or AB or BC calculus on your schedule, and just some advanced classes, your honors, your AP classes on that schedule. And so sometimes people don't know until 11th grade that they need those things. And so colleges base, those items on one, if they're going to accept the student, but two, and most importantly, the reason why they come to see people like me and you, Aisha, is about those scholarships,
Yes.
And so in order for you to get those merit scholarships from the colleges, they want to see that rigor and the GPAs and SAT scores on your schedule. So,
oh my goodness, that is such a great point. The earlier, the better. The earlier, the better. What do students need to do to successfully apply for college? And that's for you, Nicole. Yeah. What do students need to do?
During the real world or during COVID?
I would say during COVID. Let's talk about COVID now since we're in that time space. So what do they need to do now with everything that's happening?
One, you just want to take a deep breath because there's so much information and that new word, that's the old word, disinformation out there. And so many unknowns about what to do and what not to do. So of course, you still want to fill out applications. You still want to keep your deadlines. You hear all of this chatter about the SATs and the ACTs. Do I need scores or not? That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
We're
gonna dive into that a little bit today because I think that's a very important discussion to have. Absolutely.
But just keep the deadlines and keep in contact with the colleges that you are applying to if you are a senior, because some colleges have extended their deadlines. Some of them are not taking, or requiring the test scores. A number of colleges are actually behind on enrollment now. So even though a lot of kids are behind, the colleges are behind too. So, check in about those deadlines. And for the current juniors, you need to start setting some dates for your SATs and ACTs, even though a lot of colleges will still be test optional next year because the merit scholarships come into play with the test scores. And so, of course, don't drive an hour and a half away to take those tests, but just try your best to get at least 2 in before school starts in the fall.
Great. Thank you so much. And Nicole, you actually answered my next question. I was going to ask if there were any changes to submissions and deadlines that parents and students need to be aware of. So there are changes where some of the colleges are behind, like you stated, correct? Mm-hmm. But the students still should apply. Make sure they apply on time or early.
And they also need to make sure that essays and letters of recommendations have always been important, but now more than ever, they are very important because without the test scores, the colleges really don't have another level to assess you. And so when they're looking at the letters from the teachers see you every day. They work with you, so they know your habits, they know your character, they know how you work in teams, they know how, what your reaction to setbacks are. And so those letters are going to be very crucial, and those essays will help, separate you from other students. And so the more depth that you go into the essay, make sure, of course, you answer the question, because sometimes people have these fabulous essays and they did not answer the question at all, And also another tip, sometimes people get people to edit their big essay, but they don't get them to edit the small essay. And I can't tell you how many typos I see with students because they didn't take that small, 100-word essay very seriously. And there's a lot of errors in there. So they want to make sure they spell check and get people to check all of their little essays or prompts.
Thank you so much for that. So you hear that? You have to write an essay and make sure that you have someone check your essay. That essay will make you stand out. Thank you so much for that, Nicole. In regards to, remember I said we're going to come back to this standardized testing. We cannot get away from it. So are there any changes regarding standardized testing that parents and students need to be aware of for COVID-19?
Yes, there was a rumor going around that the SAT was canceled.
Yes.
And it's not that the SAT is canceled, it's the SAT subject test that they will no longer have. And so the subject test was a test that some select top tier colleges would use to, there may be a subject of, you have math level 1, math level 2, physics, some kind of world language to see your to see your, not your perfection, but your proficiency in that particular subject.
Mhm.
And so, but a lot of colleges, again, were not using them. And so some kids were like, well, if I have to take the AP test, and some of these AP tests are similar to the subject test, why do I need to take both? Because you can't really take a class for the subject test. You have to kind of study on your own. And it was just too much. So they were going to already, have some discussion about eliminating that. So they did, but they also eliminated the writing test. And
Yes.
so only 20 colleges or less across the country out of 4,000 were actually requiring a writing test. So kids were stressing out paying the extra $11 to take this test that only 20 colleges really looked at. So I would suggest to my students, unless you're going into journalism or communications or a major that has some heavy writing, if you don't enjoy writing, don't do the writing test. So those are the two things that have been eliminated. They're having some discussion about having some type of a digital format to the SAT. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be an at-home test, which I don't think so. I think they may offer some kind of a digital test, or you can take the pen and paper test. So it's still not quite clear, but those are the three changes with testing right now.
Oh, wow. And Chris and I, we did an update about this in November, and it seems like so much has changed already since then. So that brings up a very valid point that students need to stay abreast to what is currently happening with standardized testing. What would you recommend? Where would they go in order to get updates regarding SAT and ACT changes, and if they do have any current changes happening, where would they go?
I mean, of course, they can go to the College Board site. That's where the SAT is. And they can go to the ACT site. That's where the ACT.org, that's where ACT is. If they want to, there's a section on both sites, particularly on College Board, that will notify students of any site closings, on the day of the test, and sometimes it might be weeks ahead of the time. So I would suggest to students, when you're trying to take your test, try to take your test at a site for a school that has been hybrid this whole time, because that's going to decrease the chances that that test will get canceled. And so that may mean that you're not going to take it at your home school. You're going to take it maybe a place that's 30, 45 minutes away. Talk to your counselors to see which locations, had the least amount of cancellations in the fall, because March is still kind of up in the air because of COVID still, but May or June may be a little bit safer. You want to try to take one ACT and one SAT and see which one you do the best with and feel most comfortable with, and then take that test the second time, the one that you feel the most comfortable with. But definitely trying to make sure you go ahead now and get scheduled for, your spring test, and then try to take another one in August or September. You want to really have those tests done before your applications. You don't have to, but that's just one less stress that you want to deal with.
Absolutely. And you are knocking these questions out. That was going to be my next question. Do you recommend that high school students take the ACT or SAT, even if their college is testing optional? Do you think that's something that they should do in order to strengthen their college application package?
Absolutely, because a lot of students, when they heard that it was test optional, they were not taking them. I saw our percentages and everyone's percentages just go down. And so the reason why you still want to take the test is because some colleges say that they're test optional for admission. But if you want some merit scholarship given from the college, you need some test scores.
Yes.
Now, some colleges don't require the test scores for the merit scholarships. But if you do give them a score, instead of you getting, let's say, $3,000, you might get $4,000, if you have a really good score. So you want to look to see, what the median number or the middle 50% of colleges, put as their score for last year. And if your score is not in that number or higher, you might not want to submit that score. And also, there are a lot of Florida colleges that are still requiring the SAT. Really? And I've had some students that applied there, and they had to show proof that their test got canceled. Ooh. So I literally had a student that had to that had to find all the confirmations from their colleges. And we even tried to call College Board to go back in the portal to see what was canceled.
Yeah. So long story short, take that SAT and take that ACT. Just do it. Just do it. So I'm very interested from the other side. So our students are applying to colleges and they want to actually go and see what this college looks like, right? They want to go on a college tour. What is currently happening around, touring colleges? And that's for you, Nicole. What is currently happening around college tours? Traditionally, students, of course, would go with their parents or they would go with an organization onto the campus, look around, meet, student bodies, maybe some teachers. Things are a little bit different now. So how are some colleges or even organizations handling that?
Sorry about that. When you sit on the other side, I thought you were talking.
Oh, no worries. And I know, Joe's about to jump in a second. No worries.
There actually are some colleges that are doing tours right now, but they're small, limited tours. They're not going to allow you to go into the cafeteria. There are some buildings they're not going to allow you to go into. Some may allow you to go into some dorms. So just grab your hand sanitizer, your mask, and just go, because you really want to get a feel for that campus. When you walk on that campus, you will know if you want to be there or not. It's just like a person that you meet, it might be a vibe about that person. It's just something not right about that person.
Yeah.
Or you meet a person, you're like, wow, this is a person, you feel like you've known them your whole life. And so it's the same thing. But for those schools that you can't go on campus, they have so many virtual tours. On the websites of the schools. You can go on their YouTube pages, their actual websites. They have all these virtual college tours where you can meet one-on-one with admissions officers. You can hear presentations. And they even have all these videos that show, one might show the cafeteria, one may show the athletic field. And so they really break it down so students can see every aspect of campus, because people want to see it. So you try to do a combination of those, but if you can visit that campus, please get there.
Absolutely. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit and I'm going to bring Joe into the conversation since we're talking about college and campus tours. Joe is an admissions counselor for Community College of Philadelphia. Just to refresh your memory, how is CCP handling virtual tours or campus tours during this time period?
Well, we're not running any. Our campus locations are closed at the moment. We do have main campus open for a skeleton staff to support things like our assessment center, financial aid on occasion. We're not doing any in-person touring. Like, my office is based in the Welcome Center, so part of my day was talking with students, getting them, showing them why CCP was the best option for them. So we have really started moving stuff online. So we've been putting a lot of effort into like our Instagram, our Twitter. We've been really communicating with people virtually. It's shunting the question a little bit. We've moved a lot of the things that we used to do in person to an online format. So we actually do something called, we do virtual Ask Admissions Days 3 times a week now. Students can sign up, meet with myself or someone else from my office or the financial aid office to ask the questions that they normally would be able to do by coming physically to campus.
That's amazing. I love how we are all evolving and currently growing in this environment. So that is great. I'm going to bounce back to Nicole. You're preparing students on the back end, right? So that you could pass them off to Joe or pass them off to another organization, right? A university or college. Academics are a very important part of applying for college. With most high school classes currently being held, of course, online due to COVID-19, do you have any tips regarding how students can stay focused during this time period to make sure that their GPA is up and that they're producing academically to prepare for college?
I mean, that's a great question. I also work with our Upward Bound program at our local community college. I was meeting with them this morning, and our seniors are just always just on it, very ambitious, very focused. And even my best kids there, my clients at school, kids are just checked out right now. Their motivation is low, and so it really determines, what determines your level of attentiveness is, who you surround yourself with. So try your best to surround yourself with your friends who are doing some things. Try to get involved with some virtual clubs, because a number of schools still have virtual clubs, virtual sports, and get engaged with those. You might even want to talk to your counselor, or, see if you can get some outside services, just somebody just to talk to, because kids, adults, everybody is kind of just zoomed out, checked out,
Yes.
not motivated. And, it's just really, really hard, but there are some kids who are making it happen. And so that seems to be the pattern with them. They're connected with other kids who are doing it. So when they do lose motivation, when they do check out, their friends are like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Because we've been seeing kids nationally, their grades are just slipping. I think last semester they said that 40 to 60% of kids across the country got 1 F on their report card,
Wow.
because this is an adjustment. You go from kids having their hands held and people telling them what to do and bugging them, to they're at home now and they have to figure this out on their own.
Yeah.
So
having that support system is so important during this time period. Absolutely. I'm going to bounce back to you, Joe. Are there any type of, just going off of what Nicole said regarding academics and students' academics are, not, some students' academics are up to par, some are not. Have there been any current adjustments around academic admissions with CCP, or are you still holding true to your academic requirements before COVID?
Well, we keep the same requirements, but we have modified the ways that students can can show us how they can, what level they can work at. So we've actually started accepting high school transcripts for placement at the college. So if a student has an cumulative unweighted GPA of, I think it's a 2.75 or higher, we can at least put pre-college or college level placement, so they don't have to take our placement test or submit SAT or ACT scores. And that is really helping students get over that path, over that hump, get over that requirement. So what they've done in high school can be used to show college readiness and what their level is in math and English, so that we can get them moving forward. So that's the big thing. Though we've always accepted SAT and ACT scores if a student has previous college experience, a C or better in English or math course, and that can be acceptable if they've done a early college course, a dual enrollment program. And also, if none of those are applicable to the student, they can always still take our placement test. And yes, we have modified the placement test so it can be administered virtually. And as I mentioned before, the main campus is open to a certain degree. We are still doing very limited main campus placement test dates. So if a student doesn't have access to a stable internet connection or to a computer that will run the program, they can still make an appointment to come to main campus to do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that information. That is something that I just discovered. I did a little research about CCP. So thank you for dropping that new nugget around academic requirements. So Nicole, I have a question about how students can balance how they can maximize their recreational and volunteer opportunities around this time. So we understand that academics are important, right? As a part of the college application, of course, and your standardized testing, but also just being a well-balanced student, right? Maybe having a job, having some volunteer opportunities on your resume. How do you think students can maximize their recreational or volunteer opportunities during this time period, Nicole?
And that's a great question. That's something that we were also talking about in our class this morning with the kids, especially the 9th and 10th graders, because, schools usually have some kind of a job board or some kind of central location that you can find out about, volunteer work, jobs, extracurricular activities. And so now they have to be a little bit more proactive. So I would highly recommend to students that you find out where information is being disseminated at your school. I know our school does a daily email, that goes out. So any activities that are going on, they know. But, you're going to have to reach out on your own to find out, and if you go on Instagram, because that's where they live, they're not on Facebook. you know, a lot of the clubs are on there. So just join the club. And even if you're a person that might be an introvert, or you don't want to seem like a weirdo and saying hi, you know, just sit there and find out what's going on, you know. And there are some places out in your local communities that do accept volunteers. You know, we have kids that have been volunteering at food banks, at shelters, at different rallies and things like that. There are a number of kids that are definitely working. So there are jobs available, and they're letting kids work. So they just have to be proactive and just find out who in their school is disseminating that information. And if your school doesn't have what you want, try to see if you can start your own. We had a couple of students that started their own clubs this year. One of our students started a political science club. And so it was the best time, because it was right in September when all of the election stuff was going on. They got kids registered to vote, and, you know, got kids really talking about, you know, the different sides of what's going on with politics. And I sat in a couple of their meetings and I learned some things, because I'm not really into politics. And so it was nice. And just to see those kids, you know, put that effort out there and really just do something on their own. And it motivated the other kids to participate and start their own things too.
That's amazing. And yes, a lot of things are virtual now. So students really have no excuse at the end of the day. They can jump, like you said, on Instagram and join a group via Instagram. They can get an employment opportunity virtually where you do not even have to leave your house. So there are so many opportunities available, just learning where that information is being disseminated. Thank you so much for that. Now, I understand that we will have a lot of students looking at this YouTube Live, but I do understand there are going to be some parents that look at this as well. So I wanted to touch on how parents can best support their child during this time period, especially if their child is a junior or a senior and they're gearing up to go to college. What are some tips, Nicole, that you have for parents during this time period to support their child?
Parents can, you know, get in contact with their school to also find out where that information is being disseminated. Is it on the website? Is it on YouTube? Is it on Facebook, Twitter? So that they can kind of stay on step with their student, because a lot of times, you know, students know things and they don't tell parents anything. I had kids, and, you know, a lot of times I just didn't know what was going on. So they can definitely reach out to the teachers, the counselors, to find out what's going on. And instead of asking the person, can they send them information, they can reach out to the counselor or the teacher once a week or once every 2 weeks to just try to find out, you know, what's going on in the building. You know, I can say that they can talk to their kids, but sometimes talking to, you know, teenagers and parents talking together, that's just not going to happen. But if they actually, this is the best tip, if they can get in communication with the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, or PFC, whatever they call it, the school, they always know everything that's going on. So if they get involved in our PFC at our school, they've had it virtually every month. We had all kinds of parents on there. So if you're in with the PTA, you know everything that's going on.
I love that. All right. So our youth, they took the SAT, the ACT. They are doing their best to have a high GPA, right? They're applying to colleges and they are meeting deadlines or exceeding deadlines. What are the best ways that students can find out about their college enrollment status, Nicole? And then I'll jump over to you, Joe, as well. How can they find out okay, I sent my application in, I'm eager, what's the next step for that student?
3 magic words that teens hate to hear. Check your email. I'm gonna say it again. Check your email. Everything is pretty much going in the email. There are some colleges that send stuff, you know, in snail mail for theater, you know, to get your nice paper and the books and all that kind of stuff. But you got to check your email. And in most cases, the college will have a portal for you. So they'll give you a user ID number and a password, and you can go into that portal and keep track of what you've turned in and what's not in. And they will also send you automated emails to let you know a certain date is coming and what's missing. So you can check in with your counselor if you see that They haven't received your transcript. Don't assume that they didn't send your transcript. Things get lost even in the internet, email, things get lost. So check with them and, make sure you tell your counselors that you actually applied somewhere, because magically they don't know that you sent off the application and a transcript needs to be sent until you tell them. So, just check your email, and you can email the admissions officer, because in most cases you have one person that's reviewing this assigned to your school, so reach out to them via email, on social media, and just make sure that you're proactive in communication, because they're really busy reading tons and tons of literature. So just that portal is key.
Thank you so much for that. All right, so I'm going to bounce to you, Joe, since we are talking about how do we apply for college? How would a student apply for CCP? And furthermore, how would they speak to someone after they enroll in CCP, since your campus is currently closed?
Okay, well, to apply to Community College of Philadelphia, our application is totally online. So you could go to ccp.edu. We have a little button that says apply. It'll take you to the application portal. You put in your email, and that will let you verify the account, and then you can start filling out the application. Now, as Nicole said, like you have to check your email, because that's how we're going to say thank you for applying. If there's anything else that you need to do, we're going to send you a notification of that. And that's how we're going to start the communication path about guiding you through your enrollment path from an applicant to an enrolled student. So it is very important that you check your email, and also that you check your spam filter, your spam folder.
Yes.
Because like for Community College of Philadelphia, one of the first emails that we send you is actually your instructions on how to get into the My CCP student portal. And if you don't get that email, we're not going to know that. Like, as far as we know, we sent it to you. You need to check that. Now, in case of getting in contact with someone from the admissions office, give me 1 second, see if I can figure out how to share. And boom. Okay, and you guys should see my little screen. So I'm throwing up on the screen some of the contact information for Community College of Philadelphia. So we reach out a number of different ways. Now, we do have our general email address, which is up on the screen, a generic phone number as well. Now, the phone number, that's going to take you to a voicemail system. You're going to leave a voicemail, and then someone from our staff will get back to you in about hopefully about 24 to 48 hours. We get tons and tons of emails, tons and tons of phone calls every day. So we are processing them as quickly as possible. But also something I want to talk about is that we have online options. So like we do a series of Zooms, kind of just like this. So you can learn about more of our programs and make contact at Spock, talk face-to-face with someone as well sometimes. So like go to ccp/admission -events, and that will take you to all the events we got coming up over the next week or so. Now, we also have a live chat on our website as well, on the admissions pages. And if it's Monday through Friday, usually 9 to 5, it's dependent upon availability of the operators. But you can also meet with someone that way to just talk and find out what your next step is. And also, of course, there is social media as well. So I threw the two most popular ones. I threw Twitter and I threw Instagram up on there too. That notifies you about upcoming events, all sorts of things coming up as well. So we're doing everything we can to meet students where they are. Sometimes you have to be proactive, and you have to really reach out to us too.
Absolutely. So I'm going to stay with you, Joe. I'm excited to know what CCP is planning for spring 2021 semester. Since we are talking about how to enroll in CCP, what does CCP have up the sleeve for this semester?
Well, this spring semester, we have committed to being online. That is dictated by the City of Philadelphia CDC guidelines. We made the switch over to online, both synchronous and asynchronous learning very quickly. And I'm really proud of what the college has done to move the majority of our different programs into an online format to make sure that students are able to continue their educational path. Granted, there are some programs that we are still allowed to do some in-person instruction. So like for example, our nursing program. Our nursing students need to do their clinical hours, things like, our biology and our chemistry laboratories, but we have been very stringent guidelines, and we've been very, like, the main thing is always going to be protecting the students, the faculty, and the staff, and making sure everyone is in a safe moving forward.
Absolutely. All right, so Nicole, I'm going to bounce back to you. So your students applied for college, but most importantly, they also applied for student aid, right? To get to finance their college education. What is the best way that students can find out about their financial status when it comes to applying for FIA and for FAFSA?
So students definitely, and I'm glad you said that everybody focuses on the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, but they forget to fill out the FIA, PHEAA, the state grant application. And you can, you're losing out on about $4,000 plus potentially if you don't fill out that application. And so once you fill out those two applications on your FAFSA, you put a list of schools that you're applying to. They will send that information to each school that you have applied to. And then once you are accepted to the school, that school will send out a financial aid award letter to you. And each letter will look different. And so they'll send you the letter in your email. You check it, right? Or they'll send you an email to tell you to check your portal, and they'll put it in your portal and give you that information. So you definitely want to make sure that you go over each award letter that you get from every school first before you make a deposit, because they are non-refundable. And I can't tell you how many students get excited because they got accepted to their first choice. The package looks like it's a great package and it might be trash. And then they drop that deposit and then they go, wait, so-and-so gave me a better offer, and they can't get that money back. So you want to make sure you get all of those letters and review them. And if you need to check with your counselor or anyone else that can help you review those letters, I help my students review them all the time. You want to get your best offer. So you don't have to accept all the aid that's there. If they offer you loans, you don't have to accept them. They're just telling you what you can be eligible for. Okay, so ask all the questions that you need to, because some of those letters are very confusing and it don't give you all the information that you need. So you want to make sure that you network with someone who can help you weed through those letters.
Thank you so much. Those are wonderful tips. So I'm going to bounce back to you, Joe, since we are talking about financial aid. With COVID, Congress has provided funding through the CARES Act. Does CCP participate in that? And if so, who is eligible for that?
Absolutely, we do participate in that. We actually have set up a virtual student support page, and I through what it looks like up on here, and this gives students access to all the information that will help them navigate that. So like if you like, there actually is a specific part about the, let me see if you can actually see my cursor, under financial services, CARES Act Student Emergency Fund. And this gives all the information that a student needs to see about what can be used for, what the deadlines are, who is available, and what the money can be used for as well. So I don't like saying that, yes, this student is going to get, this one is not. Yeah. I really like to empower the individual student to look at the information and to do the legwork themselves, kind of thing. But this really was an incredible thing, pulling together virtually all the places where students need to go to get support, everything from academic advising to student engagement to the counseling department. It really is a great resource to find out who can help me in all different areas.
Thank you so much for that. And just to kind of go back, I did want to just define what the CARES Act is, just in case someone did not know what that was. And that's basically financial funding or financial money that came from the federal government that is available to cover costs related to COVID-19. So if students had costs related to COVID-19, there are additional fundings that are available to you. But once again, like Joe said, you want to make sure that you read the guidelines, that you meet the guidelines, and that you follow the steps to qualify for that funding. All right. So I'll go back to you, Nicole. What resources are available to undocumented students as they deal with the COVID-19 crisis. So we all know that, some of our students are here from the US and some are undocumented and are not. How can we help our students who are currently undocumented as they are applying for college, Nicole?
And that's like my favorite question, because that's one of my soapbox issues or platforms that I like to work with, are my undocumented students and my DACA students, because we have kids that have been here since kindergarten.
Yeah.
And they know everybody in their class. And when senior year comes, they have the same grade point averages or even better. And then they watch all of their friends apply everywhere. And, it kind of sinks in that I might not be able to afford school because they aren't able to fill out the FAFSA application. So there are some schools in the area that are very DACA friendly. So they want to talk to their counselors to see what schools they are. I'll just name a few. Cabrini College is very DACA friendly, and they actually have an application that students can fill out. You have community colleges that can find local money. What is that? The taxes, the meal something tax. Sometimes they have, what is that called?
Are you talking about the meal tax that you pay when you go to restaurants and stuff, or the?
It's MILL. It's some kind of special tax
Oh.
that people pay locally, that colleges can use to maybe fund some students that are undocumented.
Mm-hmm.
There are also a couple of scholarship applications that they can look at. There's one called College Access Toolkit for Undocumented Students. There's one called MALDEF, a scholarship resource guide. It's a huge packet. But just be mindful that when you do go through that packet, it's pages and pages and pages. But most of those scholarships are for students that live on the West Coast and the Midwest, states that have DACA friendly or undocumented services for undocumented students. Pennsylvania is not quite in that category yet. So just be mindful that when you do thumb through that packet, don't get frustrated and stop. It may be pages before you get there. But there's another site called Immigrant Rising that has a lot of resources for undocumented students, and their scholarship information goes in order by date. But what you also want to do, if you're still trying to go to a 4-year college and maybe your parents have saved some money, a lot of the local scholarships that your school gives out does not require social security numbers. So ask your counselors which of these applications do not require social security numbers. And for my students that are undocumented, I find out what schools they want to go to. And I have conversations with the admissions counselors there, confidentially speaking, to say, what resources do you have? And some of the schools do have a lot of resources as far as applications that they can fill out. And so I have a couple of undocumented students that are at 4-year colleges, and doing well there. So, look at all your options, but just make sure that you ask a lot of questions.
Yes. And speaking of asking questions, I'm going to throw that back to Joe.
Mm-hmm.
What are some resources that CCP offers to help undocumented students?
Well, students have access to all of our things. If you're an active student, you have access to all of our support services, whether or not they are, documented or undocumented. When it comes to, there are a lot of small organizations at the college that work with different groups of students. So students can identify, and there are people to reach out to. Now, during the application process, we do ask if they are citizens, that sort of thing, but it doesn't impact their ability to be accepted to the college. So for example, if you've lived in Philadelphia for 12 months, you are a Philadelphia resident, and you will be charged the same price of any other Philadelphia resident. And community colleges are traditionally much more affordable. So even if a student doesn't qualify for federally backed or state backed aid money, it's still affordable to attend the college. And there is also scholarships that it's referred to as institutional aid. Now, this is money you'll find this at any college or university that you're looking at. It's money that the college or university itself has to give to the students to help support their educational path. And Community College of Philadelphia gives out about $400,000 in scholarship money every year. And you fill out a scholarship application, which is separate from the FAFSA or the FIA, and you might be considered for some scholarship money that way as well. So there are ways of doing that, but I usually do, tell students, look at your community as well.
Absolutely.
When I went to college, I received a $500 scholarship from my local church to help pay for books. And that was the incredible thing. Like, I was like one of few people who actually did the application for it. So I automatically got it.
Yes.
There's a lot of anecdotal stories of, in higher education where people, like, there's money to give out, but people just don't apply for it.
Absolutely. And I'll go back to the power of social media. I always tell my students, do not be afraid to ask questions. You post your status up about what you are doing every second of the day. Why not ask questions about if there are available scholarships monies to attend college? So that's a very, very good point. I know that Nicole, you wanted to talk about another resource for undocumented students.
Yes, there are two items that I totally forgot about. If there are students that are what they call talented students, they have very high GPAs, they're like in the top 5 to 10% of their class. There's a program called the Quest Bridge program that will cover their whole need if once they are accepted to a school. And all of those schools are what's called 100% need met colleges. So there are a number of what's called 100% need met colleges that are not in the Quest Bridge program, but they definitely should check them out, because if they get accepted, those colleges cover their unmet need, so they would definitely want to check them out. But again, those are for the students that are in the top 5 to 10% of their classes, so that's another resource.
Thank you so much for that. That's a very powerful resource. We like to talk about free money, scholarships. Speaking of, I want to bounce back to Joe and talk about if there are any changes within financial aid for CCP for the spring 2021 semester.
Well, there haven't been any changes we're still processing everything like we normally would. We have, like I said, we have reached out and did a lot more of the contact that students can reach out to us via online. We have the financial aid email address. We do virtual ask admissions 3 times a week, where they can, if you don't know what's going on with your financial aid, you could, Zoom in, sit down with someone, go like, hey, I don't understand. I see that I've been marked for verification. And I actually take a second to explain what verification is. Like, what a lot of students think is when they file their FAFSA and they get that little to say like, your FAFSA has been filed, they think they're done. They think they're great.
Yeah.
Maybe. So there's something called verification. Now, verification happens to maybe like 3 out of every 10 students that apply for federal financial aid. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong with your FAFSA, but it might mean that something didn't exactly line up between the IRS information and the FAFSA, or you might just be that random person, like 1 in every 1,000 people that's selected at random for verification. Now, what this means is that the college or university that you've applied to is being tasked by the federal government to get a little more information, a little more clarification about the information you put on your FAFSA. It's not the college or university that it wants to see this information. It's the federal government. They just are having the college or university you're attending do the legwork on this. And that could be something from as simple as filling out a verification form, showing your GED or your high school graduation. It could be something a little bit more detailed. But if you don't complete the verification requirements, your financial aid stays in limbo until you do. And this is where check your email and check your email for the college. So the Community College of Philadelphia, all students, when they apply, get a student email account. And we use that as the main avenue of communication, because we can guarantee that is an email address that will always be working. They will always be able to get access to it. Things aren't going to end up in spam filters, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So it is very important that once you submit your FAFSA, your FIA, that you do follow up with your college, university, just in case, to make sure that things have been submitted and everything is on track. Now, if you are selected for verification, they can ask for things like your W-2s, your tax transcripts, and those, we've provided links that will take you directly to the IRS website, to these specific, we actually have an entire electronic form database where you can fill out the form and submit it directly through your MyCCP account. It sends you a verification that it's been submitted, and so that keeps everyone on the right path.
That's amazing.
Oh, they've done some incredible stuff. Like, we really have been trying to guide students through the process and also make sure that they are supported the best we can.
Absolutely. And speaking of support, so I'm going to deter off a little bit. Let's say you have a student that, so you know that CCP is mainly virtual learning now, outside of if you have to go and do labs for your career. How do you support a student that may not have a laptop, or they may be in an area where their internet connection is not that fantastic, or they may not have internet in their home? What are some resources CCP is offering to support students in that particular situation?
Excellent question. When the pandemic hit and everyone went to online learning, we saw we realized the digital divide is very real. Okay, not all students have access to computers that can run the right software, the stable internet connection. So what Community College of Philadelphia did is we actually created a laptop loaner program. Now, this is for active students. Once you're enrolled in class, you can contact your professor, let them know that you need a loaner device, and the professor then starts the paperwork to get that ball rolling. And the students are loaned the device for the semester or the year if they're continuing students. Now, when it comes to the internet access, that's a little bit more complicated. But the providers have really stepped up. Comcast has created an Internet Essentials program. I believe it's $10 a month, and your first 2 months can be free. They've also upgraded all their speeds for students, and then also the cellular providers have actually opened up their hotspots to everyone. So it is possible to do that. Unfortunately, that's the extent that we can do for that. But the partners have really stepped up for this. And that's also one of the nice things about when students do asynchronous coursework. So if you have a little brother or sister that has to use the computer and stuff during the day for their synchronous classwork through the school district, you could then do your courses and stuff in the evening too.
Thank you for that information. And that's a new nugget that I will definitely pass on to my students about that loaner program. That's wonderful.
Yep, they have to be enrolled, and they have to be in the class, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of supporting our students, what are some ways that additional ways CCP is let me take it back. So, our students love online, on-campus activities, right? So the campus is currently closed. What are some ways that CCP is supporting community within students that are currently applying?
Oh, well, so you're talking about the fun stuff, right?
The fun stuff.
Okay.
So, we talked about the academic stuff. Let's talk about some of the fun stuff now.
Okay, this is the thing. Our student life office, they have really done some incredible stuff over the past year. So we have something called the Pride Portal. Okay, because our mascot is Roy the Lion, Pride Portal. So they have really moved a lot of stuff online, like everything from online karaoke, trivia nights, bingo. Yesterday on Friday night, they had, are you familiar with the video game Among Us?
I'm not.
Okay, so
the teens at the Field Teen Center definitely are aware of Among Us.
Okay, so they actually had an Among Us game last night for everyone that wanted to participate. They do movies, they do all sorts of stuff. We even have a drag show coming up, a virtual drag show. So this has not stopped our student life office from really stepping up and really showcasing how unique Community College of Philadelphia is and our students are. So I sorry, I gush. What can I say? I gush at this. But they've really stepped it up. For athletics, yeah, granted we can't have we're a Division III school, but no one's competing right now. But we are part of EPAC, the Eastern Pennsylvania Athletic Conference. So we actually our students can take part in their esports tournaments. So like we had in the fall, they had a Rocket League, they had a Smash Brothers, they had Madden, they had FIFA. So any student from Community College of Philadelphia can participate in that. So there is stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff to do. And if you're open to trying some new stuff, like they have meditations, they had yoga things as well. There's always something to do.
I love it. It's always different ways to stay interactive when you are in college. Remember that, guys. It does not stop with just academics. Academics is a great part of it, but also building that community, because that community is going to take you beyond your college years as well. So definitely being active once you actually get into college. Okay, so I think I'm going to end it there and just, Joe, I know you had a special announcement that you wanted to talk about with CCP, so I wanted to kind of end it with that.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is one thing I love talking about is giving away money. I love giving away money. What can I say? As long as it's not my money. So, sorry, bad joke. I do that. Let me just get my thing up here. I swear I am computer literate. I really am. So we have a brand new scholarship with partnership with the city of Philadelphia. It's called the Cato Scholarship. Now this is for eligible first-time new students to Community College of Philadelphia. So if you've never been to college before and you come to us that you might be applicable for this. Unfortunately, if you started at another college university or you started another semester, this wouldn't be applicable to you. However, this is a last dollar scholarship with the Community College of Philadelphia and the city of Philadelphia. If you meet the requirements, you will have all your tuition and fees covered for up to 3 years at Community College of Philadelphia. Plus, you will also receive a stipend to help pay for other expenses as well. And the requirements, as you can see on the screen, is you have to be a resident of Philadelphia. You have to graduate from either a Philly-based high school or Pennsylvania-based cyber school. Charter schools in Philly are also eligible for this as well. And you also have to fill out the FAFSA and have an estimated family contribution of $8,000 or less. Now, in the case of students that can't fill out the FAFSA, so for our DACA and our Dreamers, there is an alternative that we have them do that so they can be applicable for this scholarship. Okay, so I really do push this. And pretty much for more information, go to ccp.edu/Cato. And we do Zoom information sessions about this as well, but this can be a really incredible opportunity. This is a full boat ride to go to college.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I really am excited about this. I'm really proud of the college and the city of Philadelphia for making this possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll make sure that we include that in links that will be attached to this YouTube Live. I just wanted to go back to Nicole. Her expertise is college planning. Nicole, if someone wanted to reach you, a parent or a student wanted to reach you, what is the best way for them to reach you, and what resources do you have available to them?
Okay, I'll show my resources and then I'll share my screen too. So I do have my book, Being Proactive is the Key. This book was written for middle and high school parents and students when we talked earlier about being proactive and just getting that head start in middle school. And so some of my counselor friends call this the resource guide that they wish that they could give to their parents. And so it not only helps you get ready for college, but it also gives you some tips on how to maneuver through the school system. Because remember, I've been in the school system for a long time, so how do you get things without being Medea, how do you get things, how do you network in the school? And it also goes through definitions of AP classes, honors classes, how to, sign up for NCAA and all that kind of stuff. So this is on my website and on Amazon. And then I can share my screen and I can give you guys my contact information. And that information is here. So you can reach me at my website here and you can go there and get the book. And also if you want to get a free 15-minute consultation, you can go to bit.ly/NRE help me. And so you can get a free 15-minute consultation just to talk about anything that you have that's college and career related or school related. My clients are either year-long clients or, one-off or quarterly. And I also have a lot of groups that we run for those parents that, might not be able to afford the one-on-one service, but then want to invest in a group service where they're working with other students. So these are all the ways that you guys can get in contact with me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. And last but not least, if you, I'll drop my nuggets too. So I am a scholarship expert. I love working with students and parents to help them with scholarships. So if you are interested in my services, as well as a scholarship that I am currently developing, so that is in the works. I'm excited about that. I will share my screen so that you can contact me and get information about that. All right, and this is my website, The Alexander Advantage. Please feel free to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can call or email as well. Once again, my specialty is scholarships. And I will have information out very soon about a special scholarship that I'm developing. So stay tuned for that. All right. And let me stop sharing. This is when technology, I'm like, oh. All right, Chris. So I think we are done. Let me move.
Yeah, thank you everybody so much for sharing your expertise with us and bringing this really great information to our students and to their parents and their guardians and all that great stuff. We really appreciate you doing that. So we'll send everybody off into their day. Have a great one. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate your expertise. And take advantage of, guys, the Phil Teen Center. It's where it's at.
Awesome. Have a great day.